Well, after 50 years in journalism, starting at the tender age of 15, Derryn Hinch has written a book chronicling his career, and it is a remarkable one. He's done the police rounds, he's interviewed the stars, he's worked for many years as a foreign correspondent overseas, notably covering the Apollo 11 moon launch and the assassinations of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy. He edited the Sydney Sun newspaper, he headed TV current affairs shows, as well as Midday and Beauty and the Beast. And, of course, he was one of the original shock jocks, working mainly at Melbourne's 3AW, also at stints on 5DN in Adelaide and 2GB in the competitive Sydney market. Along the way, he's attracted plenty of fans and plenty of enemies and plenty of controversy. Perhaps most memorably, he went to jail after breaking the contempt laws when he named a paedophile priest. He has maintained a campaign also to end the court suppression of the names of serial rapists and pedophiles. Derryn Hinch still hosts a drive shift in Melbourne and now faces perhaps his biggest challenge of all, overcoming liver cancer. He joins us now in our Melbourne studios. Derryn Hinch, welcome to Radio National Breakfast.
Good morning, Fran.
Derryn Hinch, before we get to your career, I'm just wondering what you make of these claims about the Melbourne Brotherhood. We were just talking about 350 movers and shakers.
I talked to John Moncrief yesterday. He runs Mon-John Security, which also does the security on my building, my apartment building. Some people see him as, portrays himself as something like a Rotary Club or a Lions Club or like the Melbourne Club or the Savage Club. Others think it's closer to the Ku Klux Klan.
What do you think?
I think it's, look, I don't think it's a sinister organisation. I've had friends, I've never been there, wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to go to any club where they won't let women in. But I think it's a bit like the Melbourne Club. Blokes get together and they have a chat and I'm sure that they do whisper bits and pieces to each other. I did ask him about the fact that he got the security job at the new desalination plant. He assured me it went to tender. I haven't been able to prove that yet. And he had a plausible excuse for the $2,000 in fines, which is to do with his company, not the Brotherhood. I think you're hitting an ant with a sledgehammer here.
Okay, let's move on to your life, your stories, and there are many of them in Human Headlines. That's the name of your memoirs, My 50 Years in the Media. Many, many stories, and perhaps most colourful, the early years as a foreign correspondent. Breakfast radio time constraints considered. Give us what's your highlight of highlights?
I think, well, one would have been watching men go to the moon, because when I was a kid, about 12, 13, I'd read all the Dan, Dare and Eagle comics. You're too young, and I'd read those as a kid and think about spacemen. And then 10 years later, I'm at Cape Kennedy watching men go to the moon, which is extraordinary. And then covering such sad things as the assassinations of Kennedy and Martin Luther King, only 8 weeks apart. And then probably one of the most graphic and saddest that sticks in my mind is I got listeners at 3AW to give me $400,000 they gave me for during the Ethiopian famine. And I called it the stick appeal. So this is Christmas. And said, give your kids one less present, give me the money. And I took it and bought blankets and hired a plane and a cargo plane and flew it to Ethiopia. And 25,000 people there I saw in a little town called Alamata. They all died. And that's the sort of story that it will stick in your mind forever.
I'm sure. You've had a lot of opportunities. You've had an awful lot of success. You were the youngest ever editor of a major newspaper in this country. I think you were just aged 32 years old.
That's true.
Are you that good, or were you just lucky?
No, you make your own luck. My general manager at Fairfax once, when I was made bureau chief in New York at the age of about 26 or 27, he said, you've been a lucky young man all your life, Mr. Hinch. And I looked him in the eye and I said, Mr. Falkingham, you make your own luck. And I think you do. I got out of the starting blocks very early at 15. I went to America and didn't know what a high school dropout was until I went there and discovered that I was one. Because you go to a cocktail party and they'd say, what do you do? And I'd say, well, I'm a journalist. What do you do? I'm at college, and they're about 30. So I got about a 15-year start. I think I was pretty good. Along the way with politics, I've met every Prime Minister since Menzies. That's about 12 of them, I guess, and covered a lot of scandals over the years. Had a good time interviewing Hollywood stars, and I enjoy writing books. I've enjoyed television. Have had a very enjoyable life.
You've certainly packed a lot in. Your nickname is the Human Headline, and your book is called Human Headlines.
Yeah, that wasn't my idea. That was a publisher's idea.
I'm sure. You're often criticised for putting yourself into the story. Just then you told us one of your highlights was, you flying the aid to the 25,000 people in Ethiopia. Why do it that way, for instance? That's exactly what a lot of people don't like Derryn Hinch for, isn't it? Why not just give the money to the aid agencies?
Well, I had this resistance from people saying that, does the money really get there? Does it go there? Does corruption steal it? So I thought, I'd been to India to see what happened to money, aid money. So this time I thought, okay, I'll prove it gets there. We'll deliver the food. I'll do it myself. Well, I make no apology for that one, because we took the food, we took it there, and we tried to save some lives. Often, though, when people say, well, you are the story, often it's just that I'm the messenger. They shoot the messenger. Stuff that I sometimes talk about, I'm hired to have opinions, and then I get fired for having opinions. I've been sacked 14 times.
You're hired to have opinions, but sometimes a lot of people think you're giving us a message they don't particularly want you to be the messenger for. I'm talking about, for instance, comments you've made of people after their death. You've said, I think, all you owe the dead is the truth.
That is true.
But if it's their truth and they chose to keep it hidden, why is it your job to come out with it?
Because history only owes the dead the truth, and I believe that. And if somebody finds out some scandal about Derryn Hinch when I'm dead, and they want and libel laws have restricted them from saying it while I'm alive, go for it. And that may not be very far away. So I'm more than I know exactly what I'm talking about here, because if you can't portray yourself one way and then hope that because you're dead, people are going to keep you that way.
Sure, but where is the point in case? Let's talk of Graham Kennedy. You write about that in the book. You said after he died of an AIDS-related illness. Yep. Now, you didn't know that for sure, did you? You never asked him. You never asked his doctor. And even if you did, why did you feel the need to say it when he hadn't said it?
I had it from two good sources. One of them, an author of the book, a former lover of Kennedy's, who wrote a book, and I saw the manuscript before he published it. The manuscript changed dramatically during a rewrite. And Graham Blundell, who wrote the best biography on Kennedy, who was a great entertainer, he wrote this book about him, and he declined to come on my program 1 minute before we went to air. In the end, Nolene Brown, who was a friend of Kennedy's and whom I respect, said to me, Derryn, it's not right. You can't prove that, and I have to agree. And I went on here and I apologised.
Yeah, but why did you feel you needed to do it? It was your job.
Because I thought it was news. You're a journalist.
News that someone's died of an AIDS-related disease.
William Randolph Hearst once said that news is something somebody doesn't want published. All the rest is unpaid advertising. And I think he said that nearly 100 years ago. I think it's pretty true then. I think it's pretty true now.
You have copped plenty of flack from it. Some of it funnier than others. Most famously, perhaps Steve Vizard's impersonation of you
Yes.
back when he presented Fast Forward. He parodied your TV show. He rebadged it Hunch. Let's have a listen.
The name of this monster is Morris Jeremiah Carpello of 28 Studsworthy Road, Glebe, New South Wales. A man who had, according to my sources, scaled the wall of the zoo on a nightly basis to have illicit sexual liaison with a non-consenting juvenile panda. I called him the Panda Panderer, a pandophile. Here's what I said.
Now, paedophile, let's reference to your campaigns against pedophiles for which you were jailed.
Look, yes, I was, and probably one of the proudest moments of my life going to jail over Michael Glennon, the pedophile priest. I went to jail before he did. He'd raped a 10-year-old girl, done a year in jail, and was still a priest. Now, I wasn't being a cowboy on that. I went to the Premier, I went to the Attorney General, I went to the Police Commissioner, went to the church, and nobody did anything, so I finally broke the contempt laws to alert people to say this guy is still out there. But look, I thought Vizard's Hunch was fantastic. I did not ever say shame, shame, shame. That was Hunch. My wife, Jackie Weaver, at the time, and my stepson would roll around the floor and point at the screen on Vizard and say, that's you, that's you, that's you. And so I wore it. It wasn't until the Wog Boy movie where I finally thought, well, I've been accused of saying that, so I might as well do it. And I did it in the Wog Boy.
Derryn, just finally, your greatest challenge perhaps now is your health. As you told your audience, you're suffering from liver cancer. What's the outlook?
Not good. It's quite simply, if I don't get a liver transplant in the next 9, 10, 12 months, then I'll die. But if that's the case, I'm very sanguine about it. To use a Jackie Weaver word, when I said, how do you feel about the Oscars? She said, I'm sanguine. So that's my word. I'm sanguine now about it. We just see what happens. All part of life's rich tapestry. And if the worst comes to worst, I've had a hell of a good life, and at least you knew I was here.
Good luck with that fight. Derryn Hinch, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Fran.
Derryn Hinch, and his memoir, Human Headlines, My 50 Years in the Media, is published by Cocoon Lodge. It's 8:22.